Oh hi, I guess I'm an E4, possibly an E3. Let's call it an E3.6. Today, I want to discuss the Purple-Red Scale of sexuality that I was only recently introduced to. This will include a bit about researcher Alfred Kinsey and then why sexuality matters in the first place. As a young person, I believed that there could only be straight and gay, which really messed with my head. I knew I felt weird because I didn't fit into either of those dualities. So then, in elementary school, in hushed tones while eating a peanut butter sandwich, I learned about bisexuals. Looking back on it, it was probably an inappropriate conversation the janitor was having with me. But this opened up my mind. There was a third option. I was the vanilla in the Neapolitan sexuality spectrum. That's a book idea. Then, in my early 20s, while at university, I discovered the Kinsey Scale. The Kinsey Scale looks like this. It's 7 columns from 0 to 6 that gradually transition between exclusively heterosexual to exclusively homosexual. As you can see, bisexuals take up the vast majority of the chart, which probably initiated the belief that most people are some level of bisexual. Now, the Kinsey Scale was developed by Alfred Kinsey, classic narcissist. Kinsey is a pretty controversial figure now. Well, I mean, he's always been controversial, just for different reasons. He was born in 1894. He grew up poor and in a very strict religious household. But at a young age, he became fascinated with biology. His father pressured him to go to school for engineering instead. However, after 2 years, he knew that he hated it. So against his father's wishes, he got a degree in biology instead. Kinsey would go on to become a professor of entomology, the study of insects, and zoology, the study of zoos. Or animals if you want to be pedantic. Kinsey was also bisexual, which may be why he started to become fascinated by sex. People were expected to be attracted to the opposite sex. Any sort of deviance from the norm was not accepted. He wanted to know what attracted people to one another and how they expressed that attraction. However, this is the 1930s. You don't just go around saying that you're sometimes attracted to men. You'd either lose funding or find yourself in the middle of a group of guys ready to pound you. And not in a good way. Despite that, he was able to release 2 landmark studies, published as Sexual Behavior in the Human Male in 1948 and Sexual Behavior in the Human Female in 1953. They were both bestsellers. My favorite reaction has to be from Mae West, who said, "That guy merely makes it easy for me. Now I don't have to draw him any blueprints. We are both in the same business." Except I saw it first. Now, originally, Kinsey was criticized for even studying sex. It didn't seem important, but it did eventually lead to the sexual revolution of the 60s and 70s. That in and of itself would make Kinsey a polarizing figure depending on your sexual politics. However, in recent years, Kinsey has also been heavily criticized for his research methods. I mean, the biggest one is that he had sex with coworkers and filmed it in the attic of his own home. Many believe that Kinsey became more obsessed with his own sexual desires than with the research. He also interviewed a disproportionate number of prostitutes and prisoners in his study. He also talked with a lot of homosexuals, which isn't a bad thing, but that did impact the results. There's also the fact that he went and observed orgasms in young boys, so let's just say that he's probably a bit, as the kids would say, problematic. So whether you love or hate how Kinsey conducted his research, I think we can agree that the scale is a bit too simplistic, especially when we are now introduced to a wide spectrum of sexualities. The Kinsey Scale, for instance, makes no room for asexuality. It's like trying to explain all the different countries of the world by only using 6 categories. Can it be done? Sure, but you're going to lose a lot of the nuance. So that's how we get to the Purple-Red Scale. Someone who's better at Google searching could probably figure out the person who created this. I'd love to give them proper credit, but I couldn't seem to nail that down. It has 7 columns, just like the Kinsey Scale, but it also has 6 rows. Yay, we get to do spreadsheets together. Remember kids, if statements are your friend. This scale inverts Kinsey by going from exclusively homosexual on the left to exclusively heterosexual on the right. On the bottom, we have those people who identify as asexual, and it ramps up to those who are hypersexual, which is how I get to my E3.6. This also isn't infallible. I don't know if any bisexual is completely 50-50 with their attraction level to different genders, but that could be my own bias. It also doesn't incorporate the person's gender identity, which I do realize would essentially create a 3D chess set at this point. but I'd love to see someone try. So we've now been discussing these two scales to explain people's sexualities. Now it's my job to tell you why I think any of this is important. And in a perfect world, it probably wouldn't be. Perhaps in a couple hundred years it won't. People won't judge others based on who they fall in love with and how they have sex. That just isn't the case currently. By latching onto an identity that makes sense to you, the world becomes just a little more clear. To me, it's like when I first got glasses. I was very young, like 3, and my mom would point to something in the distance. I'd squint and couldn't see anything, and my mom thought I was joking. And soon I just pretended I could see what she was pointing at. When it was eventually understood that I needed glasses and I put them on for the first time, my whole world changed. I could see leaves on the trees. I could see what they were pointing at in the distance. I am, fundamentally, not a different person with or without glasses, but by identifying that I need glasses to function and to feel whole, it allows me to fulfill my potential. Sexualities are the exact same thing. You might find it ridiculous that someone needs to list off something that sounds like a detailed Starbucks order, but it is important to them that they tell you how they are a gender-fluid polyamorous demisexual. Grande-sized. I think that we're in the next phase of the sexual revolution, where consent is extremely important and where our assumptions about gender and sexualities are being challenged. Which can be hard. When you've lived your whole life being told things are one way and then you discover that's not true, it can be hard to adapt. Now we have to figure out what it means to be purple or red. And I have it on good authority that it's not easy being green. And hey, I struggle too. I'm not perfect. I still have a bit of skepticism whenever I hear a new sexuality that I hadn't heard before. But also, I'm still trying to accept that Berenstain Bears is a thing. And if you have no idea what I mean, look up the Mandela effect. But as always, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. How do you identify? Do you think it matters at all? Where do you fall on the chart? Do you have proof it was ever the Berenstain Bears? Let me know down in the comments below. I also need to shout out a couple of Patreon backers. They help make videos like this one possible. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kyle. I upload videos every Monday and Thursday. If you want to make my videos even better, consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters for as little as $1 a month. Josh, I have the most irrational need to go and play bingo.